the menstrual cycle. So this is a quick snapshot of the menstrual cycle. Obviously this isn't all the information. If you do want to ask me anything further after you've watched this video, just give me a shout. So your menstrual cycle, you've got 4 weeks and these are split into 2 phases. So you've got the follicular phase and then the luteal phase. So week 1, day 1 is the start of your period. So week 1 is generally where your period will fall. Then you've got ovulation in the middle and then you've got PMS towards the end. So there are 2 hormones that will obviously fluctuate. There are a few more, but the main 2 are estrogen and progesterone. So estrogen is higher in the first phase and then dips towards the end, and then progesterone is more dominant in that second phase. So the reason that you get different feelings and obviously the things that we're going to discuss are different, are mainly governed by those 2 hormones. So estrogen first, which is a really good hormone which makes you feel really good and has lots of benefits for you. So the first 2 weeks of your cycle, so week 1, like I said, is your period, and then week 2, these are your best weeks of the month. This is where you can do everything. So training, you're going to have a higher pain threshold, so obviously you can push harder in the gym. You're more likely to get personal bests in the gym and you will be feeling stronger. Therefore, if you are scheduling your training in, you probably want to push a little bit harder, maybe try something new, push the weight up that little bit higher in those first 2 weeks. With dieting, you're less hungry, your cravings drop, so it is a really good start. It's a really good week to start a diet. Scale weight, obviously this will fluctuate all month. Higher water retention in that second phase, obviously in the PMS phase coming up to your period. Obviously once your period started, you will see that water weight obviously slowly drop down. If you are weighing yourself, I would always say compare week 1 of 1 month to week 1 of the second month, or week 2, week 2. Week 2 and week 3 are probably the preferential weeks to compare, because probably week 4 and week 1 is where you're going to see that water retention. So you're going to be a little bit more balanced week 2, week 3. But again, compare them to week 2 of 1 cycle, week 2 of the second cycle, which is why it's really important to track your menstrual cycle, because obviously you know which phase you're in, and then obviously you know what to expect as well. If you wanted to weigh daily, then that'll obviously help you understand those fluctuations, will help you see where the scale weight will increase throughout the month and where you're going to see it decrease. Because obviously of the water weight, some people can gain up to 5 to 10 pounds of water weight, which is just crazy. That could obviously in a dieting phase put you off and feel like you've not made any progress, whereas in reality you probably have. It's just obviously these fluctuations in water weight. So either compare week 2 to week 2, see where you're at, or if you want to see the daily fluctuations, you can see daily fluctuations, but don't compare week 1 to week 3 or week 2 to week 4, where you're going to be holding water, where you're not holding water, okay? So back to the training and the dieting for the second phase. So in this second phase, you've got a hormone called relaxin that comes into play, which does exactly as it sounds. It relaxes all your joints and muscles. This is in preparation for pregnancy, and obviously it will then increase if you go on to obviously carry a baby, to obviously allow for the joints and the muscles to kind of relax a little bit and allow that baby to grow. So because that relaxing is starting to come into play, you are more susceptible to injury. You're going to feel more tired, you're going to have less energy. So those second 2 weeks, you might see that performance drop in the gym. You're not going to feel as good, you're going to feel tired, lethargic. You're not going to want to push as much. So what do you do in those 2 weeks? You could potentially have a deload, which is doing the same exercises, but just not as high intense or at a lower weight. You could have active recovery weeks. So these are where you might switch to doing things like yoga, Pilates, getting in a higher step count, just generally being a little bit more active than you normally would. You cannot recover as well. So estrogen is responsible for you recovering well from exercise. So through this, obviously in these 2 weeks, you might change your training up. So first 2 weeks, you've got that higher pain threshold. You're going to be stronger. You're going to be hitting PBs. You're going to be feeling great. Okay, that training program is probably not going to look the same as that, depending how you feel during the month. Some people feel exactly the same with the training and they can just carry on. If you feel like you've been hit by a ton of bricks in those second 2 weeks, then maybe it's worth looking at changing your training up a little bit. So week 4 cravings. So PMS, cravings, all hit in that week 4. So this is going to make a diet very, very hard. However, in your favour, you have a higher metabolism. So you may see you won't see it, but you'll feel a little bit warmer. Your temperature may increase, your heart rate increases, and you're burning 100 to 300 calories per day extra. There's no way of measuring that. You could be on the lower end, you could be on the higher end. It's obviously down to your body. So with that higher metabolism, the extra calories that you're burning in preparation in this week 4, that's why you get those cravings. However, most women will probably want to overeat by 500-600 calories rather than this 100 to 300 calories. So dieting in the first 2 weeks is going to be really great, and you're going to get to here and everything is going to fall off track because of all these things at play. So one thing you can do is go back to maintenance calories. So if your maintenance calories to keep your weight the same is 2,000 calories, you were dieting here on 1,500 calories. Do 1,500 calories for 3 weeks, go back to 2,000 for a week. You're not going to put any weight on. It's maintenance. It's going to keep your weight the same. However, it is going to mitigate these cravings, and obviously you going from 1,500 calories one day to 3,000 the next day, because you've pushed back the cravings so much that you've just gone crazy, obviously, with your food. So dieting for 3 weeks out of every 4 is going to be more beneficial than dieting for 3 weeks, trying to diet for the 4th week, and then having a crazy 2 or 3 days of calories, because you've got this high metabolism, you're digging deeper than normal, you're probably going to then be in a 600, 700, 800 calorie deficit rather than your 500 because of this metabolism change. So something obviously to be aware of as well. So supplements that you can take if you have a heavy period, so obviously you're losing a lot of blood, then iron and vitamin B would be really good obviously to counteract that. Vitamin D, so sunlight, is associated with PMS, so it can help a little bit. Again, it's going to affect different people differently, so don't take this as gospel that it will help you. Apparently soy protein can help minimize PMS as well, so maybe changing your milk option to a soya protein option. You can get soya yogurts. Again, depending on your symptoms, it could help towards that. So we're gonna go up here. So like I said, start a diet in week 1. Follicular phase, so the first 2 phases, you're going to be higher in insulin sensitivity. You can utilize carbohydrates a lot better, and you're going to be using less dietary fat in those first 2 weeks. In the luteal phase, so that second phase, you want to increase protein for satiation, because you're going to have all these cravings, and carbs can be helpful for reducing cravings. So don't shy away from carbs. You utilise them better in the first 2 phases, but then in the second 2, they can be helpful for reducing cravings. So increasing that protein satiation, what do you need? So that is just here. So 1 gram per pound of body weight, or 2.2 grams per kilo of body weight, is the recommended average that you would want to stick to. A lot of females tend to eat a lot lower than this, so picking a number that you can stick to that's around that number and obviously working towards it. With satiation per meal, that is 0.4 times your body weight in kilos per meal. So someone that is 75 kilos would need about 30 grams of protein to get that maximum satiation. If you eat more than 30 grams of protein in a meal, that is perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with that. It's just not going to satiate you any more than the 30 grams would. So that is a good way of adding in protein to help satiate in those the last 2 weeks, sorry. So, do you have an irregular menstrual cycle? So there are a few things and complications that come with having an irregular menstrual cycle, and you're going to want to get it on track as soon as possible. This is a normal regular menstrual cycle, and there's already things at play that are going to make it harder for you to diet and obviously train. So you want to get it under control. So if you're not already tracking your cycle, start by tracking your cycle. Track your feelings as well. How you're feeling with food, training, sleep, everything like that. Because when you get this higher metabolism, like I said, you get higher temperature, that may affect your sleep. And obviously sleep will then affect your recovery. It'll then affect your diet as well. So a lot of things come into play. You could have something called PCOS, which is polycystic ovary syndrome. You can have polycystic ovaries, but not have the polycystic ovary syndrome. That's something I can go into in more detail if you need to, just let me know. However, with polycystic ovaries, your metabolism is a lot lower than normal. So it's gonna make it harder for you to diet. However, people with PCOS tend to have a higher testosterone level, so that means they are stronger in the gym and they can push a little bit harder. So whereas you might need to lower your calories more than normal people, your training can be higher. So you can kind of mitigate obviously the difference, but everyone has a little bit different symptoms, ways that they react, and obviously the way that the body is. So if you do have irregular menstrual cycle, PCOS could be something that you have. Oligomenorrhea is irregular periods. Again, with that, you want to get that under control. With all of these, you want to go and see a doctor. I am not fully qualified to give you all the information, whereas I can give you help. A doctor is definitely where you need to go. Amenorrhea is absent periods. So you can get absent periods for a few different reasons. If your body fat is too low and your body has decided that you cannot reproduce, you are not in a good position to bear a child because your body fat is too low, then you can get amenorrhea. So females that step onto stage and do body competitions, they will have amenorrhea, so absent periods. And obviously once they step off stage, the first thing they focus on is obviously getting that period back, bringing that body weight up to a good level to get their periods back. Another reason could be stress. Sometimes if you get really stressed about different things, then that can cause you to have amenorrhea. Again, you want to go to a doctor and just see if that's what it is, because absent or irregular periods could also be PCOS, which is a different thing, which obviously needs to be medicated in some cases, and obviously worked around, especially if you are thinking of having children in the future and you've got any of this. That is very important to get sorted as soon as you can. Plus, if you do have any of these, like I said, you're already fighting the female cycle whilst trying to diet and train. You don't want to be having to deal with this as well. So seek medical advice. Now, I know this is a long video and this is just scratching the surface. However, if you do have any questions around any of this or you need any more information, please get in contact. Please drop me a message. I'm happy to go into further detail on any of this.